Hi everyone, and welcome back to Exploring Plant-Based Diets. This is Sandy Holterhouse, and today we are going to be talking about understanding plant proteins. This is class 4. So let's go ahead and get started. I know this is a little bit of a eye chart here, but think of each of these three charts as separate information here. If you look over here on this side of the chart, you have our complete plant proteins. So when I say that they're complete plant proteins, that means that they contain all of the essential amino acids, which are listed down here at the bottom in the bottom chart, meaning that you don't need to combine them with other foods to obtain all of the essential amino acids. So there are 5 different types of plant proteins listed here that are complete. So soy products, that would include soybeans, edamame, tempeh, soy milk, tofu, and textured vegetable protein. And we will explore each of these 5 in greater detail, but all those would be complete proteins that you could include in your diet as plant-based sources. Hemp seed, ground hemp that they make protein powder with as well. Buckwheat, also known as kasha, is also made into soba noodles. Those are all sources of complete protein. Quinoa, you've probably heard of that one recently. It's a pseudo grain, but it contains a lot of protein. You do need to wash quinoa before you use it, or buy it triple washed, because it does have a bitter substance on it that helps protect it from insects, and that's called saponins. And more recently, in some of my talks, I've introduced quinoa, which is a cousin to quinoa. It's a pseudo grain as well. It's also high in protein, smaller than quinoa in size, and also does not have to be rinsed, doesn't have the saponins on it like quinoa, but it might be something that you'd like to incorporate as well if you're exploring plant-based complete sources of protein. And down on the bottom on that side of the page, there's spirulina and chlorella. Those are blue-green algae. Generally, you're going to find those in powdered form, and you'll add a very small amount, maybe a teaspoon or so, to a smoothie or to your breakfast cereal or oatmeal, something like that. So we'll talk about a little bit more about those as we go on here. And then just know in this center section here up at the top, these are foods that by themselves don't make up a complete protein, meaning they don't contain all of the essential amino acids. So for example, if you have the food legumes or if you have vegetables, those are missing methionine. So you would want to combine those with grains, nuts, or seeds to include methionine with those. That will get you to those complete proteins that we're looking for our vegans and vegetarians, to make sure you're getting all the essential amino acids that you need to repair your body and restore your body. And the next line there would be grains. Grains are missing lysine and 309. So if you combine those with legumes, you will have your complete protein. Nuts and seeds are missing lysine. Again, combining those with legumes, and you will have your complete protein. And then corn, it's kind of stands on its own here, but it's missing lysine and tryptophan. And again, if you combine that corn with legumes, you will have a complete protein. So just going through some complete protein sources, meaning you don't need to combine these, they're plant-based. Soy protein is well used by vegans and vegetarians alike to increase the amount of protein in their diets. So in picture number 1, I have the soybeans on the plant. In picture number 2, I have them shelled. the immature green soybeans, we call those edamame. You may have had them at a Chinese or Japanese restaurant. They often serve those as an appetizer with some salt on them in the pods, and you generally don't eat the pods. Um, I also make a wonderful edamame salad, and I have the recipe for that on my Pinterest site that I share in the group scroll page. Tempeh, which is pictured in number 3 there, it's a fermented soybean and it's fermented with a spore to create kind of that cakey fermented soybean cake-like substance that is often kind of ground up to resemble like a ground meat and used in that way. In picture number 4, I have soy milk, and it is actually heat extracted from soaked soybeans. So soy milk is very popular these days. You can buy it in the cartons. You might prefer to get the unsweetened if you're trying to cut back on the sugar that you are taking in. Tofu, it uses salt coagulants, and it's made with soy milk, so that's what you start with. Kind of like the process of making cheese to form the tofu there. And tofu comes in a lot of different kind of varieties. You can find it in a softer form. I think that's commonly used for smoothies or desserts. And then it also comes in a harder, more compact form that you can use as a kind of more of a meat replacement, that type of thing. In picture number 6, we have textured vegetable protein. You can buy that in the health food sections at your market, and a lot of people just use that as a meat replacement. They might throw it in, combine it with meat, or use it in salads or other types of casseroles and things as well to increase the amount of protein. And then in picture number 7, we have soy nuts, which are the dried soybean, and they're pretty hard on their own, so be careful and when biting into the soy nuts. And here's just a picture, and this is a recipe that I make quite frequently, tofu parmigiana. And you just start with your tofu. I usually do drain my tofu. You can take it out of the package and put some paper towels on it, around it, and then place something heavy on it for a few minutes. I'm not one of those people that have a lot of time to let it sit for 30 minutes. But you can do that if you have that kind of time, and let the liquid drain out of it. And then you would go ahead and slice the tofu from the package, place it in the bottom of your baking dish. I use usually a 8 or 9-inch baking dish. Fill the bottom up, and then I'll go ahead and throw on my breadcrumbs, and maybe Italian breadcrumbs if you're going for that flair. You can throw on some of your favorite pasta sauce, some mozzarella cheese, and then whatever types of seasonings you like, oregano, Italian seasoning, and then bake that in the oven at 400 degrees for about 20 minutes. And that turns out really, really good. And I'll have that shared on the Pinterest site as well. So going on to some other complete proteins. Again, you don't need to combine these. Hemp. I buy the hemp seed. I might throw it on salads. I've made porridge with it. You can also grind it up if you have a high-speed blender and then use it as a protein powder. I've listed a site on there. I'll get some of these linked to our group page or the Pinterest page, so you can follow these links and get more information. And moving to that second picture there, that's going to be buckwheat. We also know that as kasha. You can use buckwheat ground into flour, and you can make pancakes with it. You can use it as a cereal. You can cut it like you would a oat or a bulgur wheat and make it into groats. You can then combine it into cereals, granolas, and main dishes. It can be served savory or sweet as well. And as I mentioned, soba noodles are made from buckwheat flour, so those would be a complete protein as well. I do have a picture of quinoa over here on the other side of the page, and again, quinoa needs to be rinsed before using, or purchase it already triple rinsed, and that's to get that bitter taste off of the quinoa, but then can be combined to make many different types of dishes. And I've got several listed out on my Pinterest site. And again, you can make sweet, more breakfasty type dishes, or more savory dinner dishes with quinoa. And don't forget, you can explore quinoa, its cousin, as a complete source of protein as well. Moving on to spirulina and chlorella, those are also complete proteins. These are blue-green algae from that family. They've been shown to help lower blood sugar and improve heart health. And then they have some differences too. So spirulina is going to be higher in vitamin B1, which is thiamine, and in copper. And chlorella is actually higher in all other nutrients, including calories and fat. But chlorella contains bioavailable B12, so meaning that your body can more readily absorb it, where spirulina contains what they call pseudo vitamin B12, which is not absorbed by the body. So if you are looking to also maximize your nutrient potential and get some protein along with some B12, chlorella would be your better choice. And that's why I recommend it for most healthy people that are just trying to increase B12 or protein. On the flip side, there's like I say, there's a reason for every different type of nutrient or food. But if you have a B1 deficiency, or you have a copper deficiency, spirulina might be the better choice for you. So combining proteins. So again, this is that chart I showed from that first page, and just kind of to get into thinking about this a little bit, I just listed a bunch of different ways that you can combine these foods to create complete proteins, where you're getting all of the amino acids that you need. So probably all heard of beans and rice, beans and cornbread. Those are great ways to get all those complete proteins. Hummus, you have beans and you have sesame seed in it. If you did any type of a bean with a nut, that would be a complete protein. Whole wheat bread with a nut butter. If you added peanut butter to oatmeal, broccoli and rice, a bean and corn salad. Succotash is kind of similar to that, with beans and corn in it, or a black bean bowl. Maybe you have black beans and rice in your dish. Mexican quinoa, that's a recipe that I have out on the Pinterest site. Whole wheat avocado toast, so you have a vegetable and a grain. Peas porridge hot. We've heard of some of these, and maybe in some childhood rhymes or stories. Bean or a taco or an enchilada, those are going to be complete proteins if you have the beans in there. Mujadera, which is lentils and rice. Trail mix, if you add peanuts, and you can put some pumpkin seeds or other type of seed in there. Sweet potatoes and rice. White bean oatmeal. Falafel with sesame seed would also be a complete protein. And just a reminder, legumes, when we're saying that, that includes those lentils, those split peas, chickpeas, and dried beans. Um, if you want to know if you have a lentil or a split pea is going to be round and cut down the half in the center, so it will have a round side to it. And a lentil is more in the shape of a flat disc. So that's rather the difference in looks anyway between a lentil and a split pea. This recipe I have not tried yet. I'm rather anxious to try it, but it's a combination where you use white beans and combine it with oatmeal. And I've also saw online that they have a lot of different recipes for making a white bean muffin, so a grain and a white bean, and the same with cookie recipes with grains and white beans. So just something that you can try, and again, you can find this recipe out on our Pinterest page. So your challenge for this fourth class is to make a vegetarian main dish that combines proteins. And some of those challenges are, with our dinners, are filling at least half of your dinner plate with salad greens and cooked or raw vegetables. And then include a side of barley, quinoa, or brown rice. So you're getting vegetables and grain with your dinner. So that's all I have for class 4. For class 5, we will really dive into nutrients of concern. I appreciate you joining me today, and I'll talk to you next time.